Morning, YouTube. This is going to be a pretty busy weekend for myself. I'm going to try and continue working on the Genesis, getting the wiring harness completely removed from the car. At least get the interior completely empty so that if it rains, because the windshield's busted out, that way nothing gets rusted or water inside of anything damaging it. So I'm going to continue trying to pull the steering column, the dashboard frame, and the entire internal wiring harness. And then after I get done with this, then I'm gonna go pull the engine on the 2003 Beetle convertible. So now after that, or in between that, don't know exactly how it's gonna work, but sometime this weekend I'm gonna be working on the Lexus IS 300 with the 1UZ swap, putting the pedals in and possibly buttoning up the last little bit of wiring that I have to do. So it should be an eventful weekend. So hopefully y'all will stick around and check everything out. So I've removed the little ECU that was there, speakers, the antennas off the back corner of the windows, the amp, the other speaker. Disconnected so this does have a split gas tank, so it's got a fuel pump and a transfer pump. And then your evap system is underneath this cover. You got a connector here and a connector there. All that wiring comes out, so I've got one more connector right there still going down under the car, and then I got my two wheel speed sensors, so one for this side and one for that side. I'm gonna have to jack the car up to be able to get to the wheel speed sensor to disconnect it, so I'm gonna continue working going forward. I disconnected the emergency brake line. To disconnect it, I just unbolted this bracket, moved it out of the way, put the e-brake down, then rolled this one over and popped it up, and then was able to roll this one and pop that one out. So now I've got the e-brake disconnected. I'm ready to take the e-brake handle, the yaw switch, and the ABS or airbag controller out. I've got all my wiring for the front disconnected. All of this is disconnected except for the ground wire there, so I'm going to disconnect that ground wire. And then everything on this side, with the exception of the wheel speed sensor, is ready to be pulled over to the driver's side. Then I'm going to go up into that corner over there and disconnect the harness over on that side and get it to where I can pull the entire body harness. Then I'm going to work on trying to get this last little bit of the dash out and the steering column out. And then the only thing that'll be left is everything on the outside of the car and underneath the car. Okay, so I got all the wiring disconnected from the door over there on the driver's side. All the wiring's bundled up back here because I still have the two wheel speed sensors I've got to disconnect, but everything else is disconnected. So now I think I'm gonna wait until I jack up the rear end to take those last two connectors out. I'll do that later this afternoon. Now I'm gonna work on getting the steering column out and taking this dash out. All right, so I got the entire body harness removed from the car. This is all the wiring from the dashboard all the way to the taillights. This includes the evap sensor, or the evap canister, the fuel sending unit, the fuel pump, the door wiring, and ABS module wiring, and all that kind of stuff. The wiring for the amp and all that. So that's completely removed from the vehicle. All the electronics are removed from the vehicle from the dashboard back. So the only thing I have left to do is remove the rest of the dashboard. And in order to do that, I have to break loose the cooling system. So that's what I'm going to do next. All right, in order to remove the windshield sprayer tray, you have to remove the windshield wiper arms. It's a 14mm nut. And then use a pry bar to pry them off. And then you've got 3 of these little plastic push pins. One here in the corner, one in the center, and one over in that corner. And then it hooks into the trim on the front windshield right here and on the other side. So you just pull it off that trim and wiggle it out, and that comes out. Now you have access if you need to work on your windshield wiper assembly or anything like that. That's how you would service it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the windshield wiper assembly out, get it out of the car, and continue. In order to remove the Genesis ECU, it has these clips on here where this just rolls back and forth. Now you have this green lock on here. When it's in that position, it's locked. You have to push it back, and then you can pull up on this connector and get it to free up. and as you rotate it, it'll pull the connector out of the ECU. So once you get that disconnected and get the other one disconnected that's the same way, then you have a bolt here, a bolt there, and a bolt here, and the whole ECU. Now, in order to remove the windshield wiper arm assembly, you have a 10mm bolt here, 10mm bolt there, and then there's a stopper that's stuck into a piece of sheet metal here. So you need to pick up that end down there, slide it that way, and that'll allow this side to unhook and come out. And the whole thing. All right, guys, I've decided to change direction on what I'm gonna do with this car as far as tearing it apart, because it's gonna be easier for me to pull the dash out of this thing after the engine and transmission are removed. So what I'm planning on doing now is Terry and myself are gonna start ripping the fenders and the bumper and the headlights and the front core support and all that shit off the front of the car. We may even do the rear, take the rear bumper off, take the rear trunk off, take taillights out, things of that nature, and get it ready to where we're ready to drop the rear subframe and drop the front subframe. Basically drop the entire drivetrain out of this thing all at one shot. I don't know if that's gonna work, but that's what I would like to do. I'm probably gonna wind up having to do it, drop the rear end and then drop the front end, but we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to pull the engine, at bare minimum, I'm going to pull the engine before I remove the rest of the dashboard. Okay, so we're removing the front bumper. There's a push clip right here, push clip right there. There's a screw in the corner here and a screw in the corner on that side. And then it looks like the whole freaking bumper just pops loose. I haven't really tried yet, but yeah. So there, the whole bumper just pops off once you get those couple clips out. Let's pop this side loose. There's the whole front bumper. Now all we got to do is disconnect the fog lights on each side and we'll be ready to pull the bumper off. I went a little extra and removed the wiring harness from the core support, but you don't have to. There's a quick disconnect right here in the corner that disconnects the core support. Take out the 4 bolts holding, or the 3 bolts holding in your bumper support on each side. They're 12mm. Take out these 12s up here. Take out the bolt for the bumper mounting bracket on the side. It's a 10. And then disconnect your radiator supports on top on both sides, and the whole core support will come out. You'll need to disconnect the cable for the hood release, but that should be relatively simple. It's all the way over here. So we just disconnect it right there and call it a day and pull this thing out. All right, so we got the whole core support off. The only thing that's really holding the radiator and the AC condenser up is the AC lines, the heater, the radiator hoses, and then a little bit of wiring for the fans, which, I mean, I don't even think it's holding it up. It's just hooked up to it. But we're gonna have to discharge the AC, disconnect the AC lines, disconnect the upper and lower radiator hose, and then the entire radiator and AC condenser can come out. Then we have full access to the engine and the subframe. All right, so in order to remove the fender, you have to remove the fender liner. Fender liner is held in with a bunch of those Phillips head plastic, black plastic clips. Just pull all of them and the whole fender liner will come out. Then you've got 3 bolts across the top. One there, one there, one there. You got one on the side right here. You have to pull the side skirt off of the car, and chances are you're going to break these clips unless you know of a way to unclip them that I don't. But I don't see any other way to unclip them other than just grab the panel and pull. And then there's a bunch of Phillips head screws underneath the bottom of it, all along the whole bottom of the car that screw it in. Take those out, and then you'll expose the last 2 screws right here and right here. And then there's also one up here that you have to access with the door open. Once you get all those out, the fender comes off. So that's the side skirt on the driver's side removed, fender liner removed, front core support completely removed, and Terry's working on doing this passenger side. So we'll have all the sheet metal off the outside of the car probably within the next hour. Yeah, some of them I did. Okay, everybody, the rear bumper seems to be as easy to remove as the front bumper. So there's a splash guard bolted in. It's held in with 2 plastic clips underneath, a Phillips head screw right here on the side, and then it's got a nut up here and a nut up here, and they're both plastic. Once you take all that off, there's a screw right here going up that you have to take out. And once you take that out, the whole thing just pops off. So let me take that screw out and I'll show you. Okay, so I just started I removed this screw. It was sitting up in here like this. Pulled that out. Now I should be able to just pop this out of its clips. And you can see the whole bumper just popped loose. All right. Now I should have some clips across the top and across the back. And this has it has rear sensors in the bumper. I'm actually going to retrofit those into the Veloster when I get this mounted on there. Okay, before you can continue to remove the rear bumper, you have to remove these bolts from behind the taillights. So you have to remove the taillights. Taillights are held in with 4 8mm nuts. You got to remove both taillights. There's 2 spring push clips here, a 10mm bolt, and the same on that side. All right, I didn't video it, but to remove the deck lid, you've got these hinges that are mounted. You got 2 bolts right there going into the bottom of the deck lid. All right, to remove the hinges, it's 3 bolts up here on the top. They come through right there. And then the shock is just like a hood strut. So what you do is just pull out on that little metal clip right there, and then it'll pop off the ball. You can see the ball right there and right there. All right, there's 4 brackets on the bottom of the bumper, but these were all broken, so it didn't really matter to me. But there's 4 brackets. They're held in with those little black plastic push clips. You can see the back side of one of them right there. But pop all those out, and then the whole bumper comes off once you remove the rest of those bolts. There is a block that has to be disconnected. I'm not exactly certain what this is. I think it has to do with keyless entry, but I'm not certain. So, or it may have to do with the rear sensors for the parking, for the backup. But I'm gonna retrofit this stuff into the Veloster bumper and see what I can do with that. But all you have to do is disconnect that connector, and then disconnect your wiring that's inside the trunk and push the grommet through the back firewall, and you're good to go. Now I'm gonna remove this block so that I can keep it with the wiring. I'm gonna remove the wiring from this bumper and cut the sensors out of the bumper, and then basically get rid of the bumper because I don't give a crap about it. All right, we got the whole back end of the car stripped. We're gonna go ahead and probably the next thing is going to be drop the radiator and the AC condenser and get that off the front end. And then we'll probably drop the entire exhaust as one piece. And then we'll pull the rear axle. I guess now is the perfect time to show you where the drains for your sunroof come out. That's the drain for your sunroof right there. That's back passenger side. So that's underneath the bumper right next to the exhaust. This one's the same way because there's your tube coming out, and it comes out down there. All right, and then your front drains come down through here, and they come out right there. So that's right in front of the door. But there's one right there, and then the other one on the other side is the exact same place. But if your drains ever clog up, that's where you would need to back probe them or blow air through them or whatever. So the entire dashboard's out. The only thing that's left is the front body harness. You can see it right there. And then the clutch pedal and the brake pedal, and then the steering rack. But everything is with this car. The only thing that's left is the shifter, which is going to go with the transmission. And then, like I said, the firewall, sound barrier, and the gasket for the steering wheel, and then brake and clutch pedal. But everything else has been completely removed except for the sunroof. I'm not going to take it out until after I'm completely stripped the car, because I don't want it to rust out any of the tunnel, because I'm probably going to wind up having to use this tunnel to make it fit in the Veloster. But wound up having to disconnect the AC, disconnect the heater hoses, and then take out nuts that were around those, disconnect the wiring that went down into the corner of the door down here, and it was hooked on those little bolts that are all along the top right here. Disconnected those and shoved that back through. Gonna have to do the same thing on this side, disconnect all these and shove them through. And then the only thing that'll be left in here will be the pedals and the steering shaft. And when we go to pull the motor and transmission out, all that stuff will come out at that time. But that yeah, we're making really good progress. All right, guys, I think I've reached my stopping point for the day, on this vehicle at least. So the only thing that I should have left to do to this thing now, inside the vehicle, is taking the 2 pedals out and taking that last little bit of the wiring harness out. And then if I need to be in here when I'm pulling the transmission to get the shifter to clear when it comes out. But I shouldn't need anything else out of the inside of the vehicle. I am going to remove the speakers from the doors, and I'm going to remove the wiring harness and the window motors, but I'm not going to keep the doors. And then after that, I think the next major project that I'm going to do on this is removing the rear axle and the gas tank and the exhaust, and then probably getting the fuel lines out of here. And then I'm hoping to be able to drop the front subframe, transmission, engine, suspension, everything all in one shot. Drop it all out from underneath the vehicle, and then just pick the vehicle up and roll it out. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's what I'm hoping to do. So it's been hot as shit here in Georgia today. I've been sweating my ass off, and so has Terry. And man, it's only 5:45, and it is so freaking hot out here that I actually have to stop working for the day because I feel dehydrated. But made a lot of progress today. Got the entire vehicle stripped as far as the body panels go. There's no more removable body panels on the vehicle except for the doors. I'm not going to remove those unless I have somebody that wants to buy them and they come pick them up. I'll unbolt them when they come get them. Same with the sunroof. I was going to remove the sunroof, but I'm going to leave it in there. If somebody wants to buy it, then I'll unbolt it and give it to them. But I'm going to sell all the pieces that I don't need are going to get sold as just recycled auto parts. So sell the front bumper, sell the fender, the hood. The passenger side fender is not really good. I'm not going to be able to sell the rear bumper because I'm cutting the sensors out of the bumper, or the sensor mounts out of the bumper. So that bumper is going to be useless. But I got a good core support. Side skirts are still good. So there's a lot of salvageable parts that I can sell off of this thing. Plus, if somebody needs a quarter panel, I can cut the whole corner of the car off. I mean, it is what it is. All I need is the floor and the subframes that I'm taking. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys like what you saw in this video, like always, please like, comment, share, subscribe, let your friends see what I'm doing. And in the next video, you're going to see me ripping the rear end gas tank and fuel lines out at minimum, possibly getting the entire drivetrain out of this thing in the next video. And if that's the case, then the Veloster will start within the next 2 weeks. So hope you guys will continue to check out the progress of the project, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one.